Unfortunately, today, office coffee is still not fun. Why don't companies invest in great coffee for their employees? Why? What's going on? Nescafe and Brew, the two largest commoditized products, have not seen any innovation. What is this crap?
The Indian coffee market is huge, but it has remained the same for decades. Armaan is the creator of this new age coffee brand, and he is on his way to change the way India consumes coffee.
What does it take to scale in India?
So इसमें बोलने से कोई फायदा नहीं है. You can say my product is better. It doesn't matter until someone tastes it and finds it better. There's no point screaming and shouting that you are better. We have a lot of people say, listen, I bought your product, it doesn't taste good, I don't like it, refund my money. Sure, done.
Their dream was pretty simple. They wanted to introduce India to the real good coffee.
What are your insights about Indian coffee?
मेरा ब्रांड era permanently at 80, 70, 80% off. भाई को SleepyOwl पसंद है. So it did never said Salman Khan.
Are you guys profitable?
I mean,
What I would want to really start off this conversation is by understanding like why coffee. And there's so many other variables. I was like, hey, Arman could have done this too, but where did that idea come from?
okay, I'll have to go way back to explain coffee. But my co-founders and I, Ajay, Ashwajit and I, are very, very big food and beverage fanatics, right? We love eating, we love drinking, and we love food and beverage overall. All three of us are fairly into fitness as well. So at the point in time when we met and we were figuring out what area of business we want to start up in, we realized that this is something we're excited and passionate about and we want to explore. So it was around the junction of food, fitness, or beverage fitness. We even explored, other aspects. But all three of us are coffee drinkers, and we have very different ways of drinking coffee. Right? And this is back in 2015-16 when we were ideating. I grew up drinking instant coffee. So a typical instant coffee powder with milk and in a blender, right? Without sugar though. And Ashwajit was the only person in our entire network, in my entire universe, who actually used the French press to brew coffee. And this is 2014-15 when he was in university with me. And I had no one else, and that was the stage when I didn't know coffee was the bean that needed to be brewed. And Ashwajit had his own thing going on. And Ajay was in the US for his education and obviously exposed to the fledgling coffee culture there, right? So his go-to was a flat white. Right, which I'm sure even today a lot of people don't know what it is or what it means. So we had very different habits around coffee, and that was the inkling that actually got us to start researching what's going on in the coffee space. Right, we have no background in terms of coffee farming or not that our parents or someone in the family owns coffee estates. Right? It's not that. We started as users researching what's going on in the coffee space, right? And we just fell in love with what we read and learned about coffee and told ourselves that there seems to be an opportunity here. And we just jumped on that opportunity. It was as simple as that. That there are gaps. Let's figure out what those gaps are. As people researching ideas, as founders or entrepreneurs researching a space, it has to excite you. It has to make you curious to want to learn more, right? That's when you get fully involved and immersed in it. And that's what happened for us. We just got involved, immersed, started reading, learning, talking, finding opportunities within coffee. And some of the facts that may come out, during the course of the conversation was startling, right? Like India is one of the largest exporters of premium Arabica grade coffee, right? India's consumption is much lower than the rest of the world. So we started asking questions, why? Like, why is it like this? Why is this historically been like this? Why are there two players that have 80-90% of market share? Why hasn't anybody else chosen to come and disrupt this market in the past, right? What's going on in the cafe space, right? With Cafe Coffee Day and so on and so forth. What's happening in the world of coffee globally, right? Interesting trends that we could come across, and that's when we actually discovered cold brew for the first time, right? And when we made cold brew for ourselves, we tried it and we said, okay, this is really fascinating as a beverage, right? One thing led to another, and we were convinced that there is some opportunity in this space. As first-time entrepreneurs, 24 years old, the idea of TAM, the idea of market size, the deep market research that one would have to do, and also 2014-15, not talking the way entrepreneurship in India is today, talking about, when it was just picking up. So to be frank and to be honest, we didn't go into it with the mindset of how big is the opportunity, what is the market size, what are the personas and who is the consumer. It was just more with the love and, passion that there is an opportunity here in the beverage space overall. And coffee is exciting. It's cool. It's what the young folks are drinking. Tea is for the older folks and your parent generation.
You said, there seemed to be an opportunity. Talk me through that. Like, was it a feeling? Was it like something you saw that, hey, you know what? There was signaling, like indirect signaling. For me, it would be that, hey, you know what? I don't know if there's a TAM or not, but Starbucks seems to doing something. And if Starbucks is thinking of coming to India, well, looks like they must have done some research. So,
so a couple of things there. So first was, I think, before we get into market, right, it's about understanding consumption, understanding user. And again, a lot of this is now historical, right? Or the way I'll explain it with the kind of terms we're using, we didn't talk this language then, right? But I think first is a user, right? And in the user, I would say ourselves, right? And I think R was a unique case of we had a problem and we solved for ourselves first, right? And then started figuring out that there have to be more people like us facing a similar problem. I had just moved to Bombay. I was working at an edtech startup, and after university and working at an edtech startup in an office in Bombay, I got exposed to what is called office coffee, right? And I realized that this is not tasty. Right? Office coffee is not fun. And unfortunately, today, 2023, it's still not fun. Yeah. It's not a space we've gone after. It's not a space where, most people have gone after. But office coffee is still not tasty.
It was never meant to be fun, right?
Why not? I mean, why, coffee is the fuel that keeps people in office, energized, working, active, caffeinated, so why not? Why don't companies invest in great coffee for their employees? High time they should, right? But I think every time we go back to HR and admin, it becomes a question of cost, right? Like, I will not spend more than 4 rupees a cup for my employees' coffee. I mean, then you're going to get crap and 4 rupees a cup, and then the employees also settle with it. Or what I started doing, I would go down to the nearby CCD at Fun Republic Mall and have a cup of coffee, right? But that's 150, 200 rupees a cup for me to just go and have it and come back. You can't do that every day, right? It becomes difficult to do that every single day. My co-founder Ashwajit, who had quit his job in Delhi and he was living with me in Bombay while we were ideating, would choose to work out of a Starbucks, right? And this is 2015. Starbucks had come into India in 2012. We had a beautiful cafe in Andheri, and that's where he would sit and work out of. And he was sipping his black coffee, an Americano or an iced Americano. Again, it's expensive. It was not cheap for him to do that. And at home, he was using a French press. So he was buying beans, getting them ground at the Starbucks itself, and making a French press at home, and it was more economical. He got me drinking black coffee with him. And that's when I discovered that there is a world beyond sugary, milky coffee, right? And I started enjoying what black coffee tastes like, right? And said, okay, why not more of this? Why aren't more people drinking more of this? What's going on, right? So as a user, we said, there is some gap here. There is some problem which needs to be, solved, right? The next realization was that at home, what are people drinking? This is my out-of-home habit, right? Which is either at my office or when I'm stepping out. But at home, what were people drinking? And it was all instant coffee that was made by Nestle and Hindustan Unilever, which is Nescafe and Brew. The two largest, almost commoditized products that have not seen any innovation. I'm not going to talk about whether it's good or bad, because ultimately tastes and preferences, I believe, vary from individual to individual, right? So there's no saying, this is tastier than this. It varies from person to person, but there was no innovation in the look, the feel, the appeal, or for that matter, the taste of Nescafe and Brew for the last so many years, right? And that's what people were consuming at home, and they had all of the market share among them for in-home consumption. And what we realized is that, this has been going on since my parents' generation. Since the 90s when I was a kid having this, 2015, this decade also, the same product is on the shelf and in people's homes. Why? Right? What's going on? How can it get better? Right? The other was understanding that and we spent some time in Chikmagalur, which is where most of India's coffee is grown. All of the premium Arabica coffee is exported out because in India there weren't enough paying customers for high quality Arabica because no one was drinking that, right? But we knew that India grows this high quality coffee, right? So how do we get access to this and get people to drink a better cup, right? And given that 2010 to 2020 is when social media exploded, I think people in India became more aware of what's going on in the West, what are the trends, what are the things that are hyped up, and had a more aspirational lifestyle, right? So we said, okay, this is at we're at the cusp of these couple of things happening, where we should be able to introduce an interesting innovation or product within the coffee category that would initially be catering to customers who are willing to explore and those who are aspirational and those who may be able to or are excited to pay a little bit more for a better quality product, right? It'll be small, it'll be niche, but we were excited to go after that. I think the third thing, the startup ecosystem started evolving. So as young entrepreneurs, we were like, yeah, this seems to be an opportunity with e-commerce or with being able to sell all online, where the world around you is ready to support you to do this, right? Which means you can take a Shopify website for cheap. We can, get our payment gateways sorted out quite easily. Set up a channel and start experimenting. I'm not saying figuring out deliveries. You had delivery, you had other courier partners, and just to take you back a little bit, Ashwajit and I started a bar accessories venture while we were in law school in 2012. So we were 19. We were in law school, and it started there. We want to do something beyond studying for our degree. There has to be something more we can do that is exciting, and that is when we started discussing business ideas, and we ended up importing beer pong tables among other party and bar accessories from China, set up a company, set up an e-commerce website. It was being warehoused in his family home in Jalandhar, and his domestic help and his mom would do the printing of the invoices and the dispatches, and we were sitting in our dorm rooms or in our classrooms and running some form of marketing or awareness to get people to come to a website and buy. 2012, I think extremely difficult to start and run an e-commerce business as a 19-year-old sitting in Sonipat. But there were ways and means to do it, and we did it, and we ran it for 2-3 years. But 2015, when we restarted, right, it was much easier, right? So in just those 3 years, the ecosystem around us evolved in a way that made it a better time for entrepreneurs with ideas to kickstart, right? So I think these few things coming together gave us the belief that kuch kar sakte, right? And then we just jumped into it.
You were talking about like ourselves as users, like that's where the whole thinking about. What are your insights about Indian coffee users?
To be honest, back then we didn't do deep user research on what consumers were looking for or what consumers wanted. It was clearly a me problem, right? It was like, yeah, I'm facing this problem. I want a solution to it. And the problem was twofold, right? One is lack of education, right? There was no one was educating users about coffee. So what we discovered by going to Chikmagalur was that a quick snapshot, coffee is a fruit, right? The coffee fruit, needs to, the mucilage, the cherry is removed. There's a green color bean. That bean is roasted, it's ground, it's brewed, and there are different ways to brew coffee for different grind sizes. We realize it's complicated. It's not easy.
So let's pivot to now. Right? We spoke about users when we were just starting off. And again, there was not too much. I think you were the user. You had the problem and you were trying to solve it for you. And then we're like, hey, if I'm there, there are others like me.
I think we found the people like us who were frustrated, looking for other options. But it was restricted to this, I would say, peak India 1 ka 0.1%, right, of people who already had some taste for black coffee, who were very well traveled, who were early users of Uber, early users of Netflix, Airbnb, not staying at a hotel but staying in someone else's house. So I think people who were early adopters or early users for any of these other apps were quite early to adopt SleepyOwl as well, right? Experimental. obviously have been abroad and tried cold brew or tried, interesting coffee and are looking for better options here. So we got that user base, which is very much like us or, sort of the life we've led, found that crew and, started selling to them, right? And actually, this is the audience where I think word of mouth also ends up, helping a lot. So being a bootstrap startup at that stage, selling only on our website, mostly they trust online platforms in 2015, 16, right? They're already ordering online, paying online, transacting online. So that user we managed to find. And of course, being bootstrap, did it through a lot of samplings, tastings, events, and pop-ups where we went to the places where we knew we'd find this kind of user, right? So the first 18 months we managed to get there. Obviously, over the course of the last 7 years, we've launched in products in a lot of other categories within coffee as well, right? And I think we've had to agree among the three of us that we have to stop making ourselves the user, right? We have to understand that there are many different kinds of consumers who are looking for different things, and you cannot restrict your product development necessarily to what you think you like and prefer, right? And this has come, I think through a lot of user feedback, right? So to give you an example, we went from launching a black cold brew to a ready-to-drink cold brew, right? And that ready-to-drink cold brew, when we designed it and it launched in about 2018, it's very little milk, very little sugar, made with cold brew. So it's actually very light. It's patla in its consistency. It's in this beautiful glass bottle. Within the realms of Delhi and Mumbai at the time, and now Bangalore as well, there is that audience that absolutely loves it the way it is, right? Where they say, listen, this is exactly what I want. It's a black coffee with a dash of milk and sugar. It's cold brewed. They appreciate it. But as we scaled it to Punjab and to other markets, right, where we started reaching a different audience, most people pick it up expecting a cold coffee. And a traditional cold coffee, the one that they've had with vanilla ice cream and
the
a
one
lot
that
of
Amul
sugar.
sells right now as well.
Yes, you could say that. Correct. Yes. So that's what they were used to or expecting. So for them, it was a shock. What is this crap, right? And we started getting a lot of feedback around it. So we took that feedback and we recently launched, I think 2022 summer, we launched cold coffee in its traditional form, right? And me personally, I would always have my own cold brew over a cold coffee, right? But the cold coffee is delicious. It's creamy, it's sugary, it's it's thick, it's decadent, right? It's doing very, very well and it has a consumer. So we went back to the cold brew, right? And most people don't know this, and I've never spoken about it before actually. We took that cold brew and we changed the formulation. We made it slightly thicker, slightly milkier, right? In the hope that even if the odd person who picks it up thinking it's a cold coffee still likes it. We got brickbats and complaints from the core user of the cold brew saying, what have you changed and why have you changed it?
Yeah.
Right? And we went back to the old formulation. In our little bubble, it's like the Coke story. Right? I don't know if you know, Coke had a period where they changed the formulation and it tanked, right? We started as a company that was doing only cold brew, right? And we were telling consumers that, listen, this is a freshly brewed cup of coffee. This is made with premium Arabica beans. This is convenient and easy to use, and upgrade to this. Upgrade, not only upgrade from Nescafe and brew, we also would say upgrade from instant coffee, right? And we, at that point in time, to some extent, made instant coffee the villain, right? Like, this is not good, this is good, right? But over the years, we realized that, and this happened through lots of user interviews, that even our core consumer, like SleepyOwl's core cold brew consumer, almost all households have instant coffee in their pantry.
Yes.
Right? And we got into the why. Why do they have it? What do they have it? When do they use it? What do they use it for? And we realized that this is a segment and a space that we can get into from a business sense, and there may be scope to do a better instant coffee, right? And research led us to say, okay, we're doing 100% Arabica instant coffee because both the large players are working with inferior beans or, it's been the same forever. How about we say, okay, 100% Arabica, freeze-dried coffee, and then give it some fantastic flavors and flavorize it and premiumize it and, make it a better overall experience. And, we've seen fair bit of success even in that product range, right? As founders, we were very nervous about getting into instant coffee because we said, okay, we don't drink it on a daily basis. I don't have instant coffee every day, right? Occasionally I do, right? But it's not about me. Like I said, we realized that, as an FMCG food and beverage company, it's not about what I drink and what I like. It's about giving customers the option to drink what they want. And as a company, if I can have, multiple categories and I can do it well, it's better for the company, it's better for me. And today, instant coffee is our largest selling segment, right? And it surprises us as well, but it is. We are in the business of premiumizing. We are in the business of getting people to upgrade because we are serving a better quality product, right? And better service as well, I would believe, right? So I think the intention is to get consumers to switch from what they're currently having to something better of higher quality, and do it in a way that, genuinely serve them, right? We take pride in believing that ultimately our moat will be in the kind of service we offer, whether it's to the direct end consumer or whether it's in trade, whether it's the suppliers and vendors you're working with, that whole ecosystem, we have to do that right. I think with coffee, it is a psychoactive drug at the end of the day. And the good thing is it's people who start with you as a brand or like your product and get habituated to it, great. If not, then you're forcing someone out of an existing habit and getting them to switch. So it's a double-edged sword, right? Where someone's a hardcore Davidoff user, it's not easy to get them to switch to SleepyOwl, or get them to get that first trial, right? So इसमें बोलने से कोई फायदा नहीं है. You can say my product is better. It doesn't matter until someone tastes it and finds it better. There's no point screaming and shouting that you are better. You need to get them to taste it, or they need to choose to taste it, appreciate it, and then hopefully make that switch. For a non-user, so sometimes we have these debates, right? Are we here as a business converting tea users or other beverage users to become coffee drinkers? Or are we converting within the universe of coffee? Right? Am I getting a guy to switch from his current coffee to our coffee, or from non-coffee to coffee? So it's tricky, we're debating. Sometimes communication is around switch to better coffee, sometimes it's switch to coffee.
Like, what does it take to scale in India? Like at a D2C brand, as an F&B player, like what does it take? And talk to me about it, I think from right now, what it takes, and then let's go back to last 6-7 years and look at what it took back then as well.
So I'll start with back then first, and then move to now, right? I think in the food and beverage ecosystem, it completely depends on, to some extent, on who you are and where you're starting from. As 25-year-old, non-FMCG, non-food and beverage, non-business founders, we had a very different journey of starting and scaling our organization and our company, right? As I mentioned, step by step, product by product, dhire dhire. So there was no way to start but online, right? Yeah, this is my website. I've spent very minimal on setting it up. Yahan se kharido, right? Gradually we went to, let's say, marketplaces, which is Amazon, Flipkart, so on and so forth. And then now quick commerce spaces, so essentially all digital channels, right? It's only when you have some proof of concept, some repeat buying behavior, some users, and some data, can you break out of this digital universe and say, okay, now I want to experiment with trade, right? But in the truth be told, in F&B at scale, your trade component needs to be the highest. Your modern trade and your general trade and your ability to create awareness in trade and to service trade. That is extremely, extremely crucial, and that takes a lot of time, energy and muscle to build, and that's the slow game. That's the long game, that's the tough game. That's why the MNCs have a very strong hold, right? Where you're going after the average consumer walking into a store, right? As I told you earlier, for us, initially the kind of products we were selling, they were not even meant for trade, right? Because there's no awareness about them. So you can't put a cold brew on a shelf and the average consumer walks in who doesn't know what a cold brew is, you cannot educate him on that shelf. You can only if you have an individual standing there, a promoter or a sampler who can educate them, make them try it, but that's expensive. You can only do it for a certain period of time. Without that aid, right, that product's not selling itself. It needs a push. So it's a push product, right? And for the first couple of years, we had push products in our portfolio. A push product can sell on digital platforms because you are nudging the user. Either it's with an advertisement that explains it, or a website that beautifully can tell the story, or emailers, or again Instagram, where content, right? Where you can actually educate someone and make them aware about these new things, and then get them to try, right? That happens online. But mind you, online, the unit economics of your business, given the kind of marketing it takes to, marketing, logistics it takes to get the product to the consumer and then repeat and get hooked, it is challenging to make that work entirely. Because food and beverage, unlike personal care or makeup, etc., does not have the same or does not enjoy the same margin structure that some of the other categories enjoy. So building a food business online, and I think Suhasini from Yoga Bar, in her podcast with Shantanu and others have elucidated this, is that you can do it, but you can't necessarily completely scale it there.
Yeah.
It's good to have, but it's your gateway, or it's the gateway for some brands to be able to get into retail trade, right? And for us, it was that because we came at an age or at a time, and with the kind of experience we had, there was no other way for us to do it, right? If you take Viba, for example, which is another DSG portfolio company, and Viraj is a friend, they pretty much went B2B to offline, right? E-commerce, at least in the traditional sense, their own website or e-commerce does not feature in their thousands of crores of revenue, right? Today, we are omni-channel. So we're not D2C in any way or form. We have a website. It contributes 25% of our business, but that's it, right? There is Amazon, there is quick commerce, there is modern trade, there is general trade, less than 25 now, to be honest, right? There was a point when we were 100% D2C with that one SKU on our website. And then, gradually other channels have come in. So I don't think food and beverage strictly as D2C will work, because the user is not coming only for one product, right? Why Amazon works better is you can again buy multiple things. You can build a basket, right? I think where we are today, I would say even 16, 17, it worked to some extent. Now it's just too much to expect of a user to be going to 5 individual websites to order, have 5 people come to your house, have 5 tracking numbers to look after, have 5 different transactions you want to make. Once you figure out, I think what happens here also is the user may the first time come, if you enjoy the product, and if it's a repeat based product like ours is, now that you realize you like this and you want it again and again, I would assume, or my own behavior, and I would assume most is to then see if it's available on Amazon or Blinkit or Swiggy for that matter, because you can then make it a part of your regular buying, right? And this is for online users. For those who shop offline, they shop offline, right? So try and be where your customer is in stores near them.
So it's 2024. Yeah. And somebody's listening to this podcast and they're like, hey, Armaan, like, what will it take for me to start a D2C brand? Like, what does it take now? Things were different back then. The internet now, the content game right now, the kind of awareness users have right now. What's changed? Like, if you were to start this in 2024, what would you be doing? Like, how would you be looking at it?
Yeah, I think you have to have a differentiated product, right? You can't be Me Too. And in fact, unfortunately in coffee, we've seen a lot of Me Too players come up. And, I feel like you have to have something unique and something differentiated that you can choose to scream and shout about, and that consumers can acknowledge you for that. Yeah, you're different, right? This is what makes you different. This is why I should try you. Genuinely be clutter breaking in your branding, your storytelling, your appearance, your look, feel as a brand. And it should seem like there's a lot of effort that's gone into building that out, rather than, just slapping a logo on and doing it, right? Like, it's not as easy today to do that if you really want to succeed. It has to be differentiated, and your communication and storytelling has to be clutter breaking. I think it should also be founder led. Be out there, tell them your story or why you're doing it. I mean, not just the product is different, it's also why do you deserve to exist, right? If you don't have money, start online, start on your website, build it out slowly. But I would say in food and beverage, just know when you're entering it, know that this is what you will be doing for the next 15 or 20 years. Don't expect a 2-year, 3-year, 5-year return. It is a long game, because you are changing consumer habits and behaviors and preferences and so on and so forth. I would say definitely stay local as long as you can, right? So get into retail, get into trade while you're online, grow online initially, get some feedback. Once you have some proof of concept, get into within your city stores and start practicing. Don't move too fast to many other geographies. The longer you can make mistakes within your geography, the better it is. So you can recover from those mistakes. If you try and blow up too quickly, too fast, it doesn't help in food and beverage, right? You have to be hacky and partner with quick commerce and e-commerce platforms. There is no way other than that. Your website is just a channel for you to get feedback, trials to some extent, but the larger consumer base is shopping on quick commerce and e-commerce, and you have to get your product there. I'd say from 2019-20, when they started, to now, it's actually 10x tougher to get into these channels as well, right? It's not easy to get there unless you already have traction. So what they would expect from you is, do you already have traction? Because on Q-commerce and e-commerce are not places to build a brand necessarily. It's not a place to build a business from scratch, right? Usually people go in there with predefined choices of products that they have. And yes, there is some amount of discovery that happens, but the risk for a platform like this to take your product and store it when there's no demand, no people have no idea who you are, is tougher. So they expect that you've already achieved some scale in the outside world. There is some awareness about you, which is why if you do it in a city and you are in a concentrated way, right? In one city, you're able to build a name or a following. Then when you go to a Q-commerce platform like a Blinkit or a Swiggy or a Zepto, you only request to be listed in that one city. I don't need a pan-India listing, but within this city, I would like to be listed. Consumers here are aware. And then you gradually build your business, right? So you reach a stage where there's a proof of concept in one market and you replicate it in the next market, right? So it's a very step-by-step process, which I would still take the same way. There is no rocket science to it, right? And it is not exponential. It will just compound.
So tell me more about this April Fool's thing. What was it all about?
Okay, so April Fool's is sort of a thing now. So back in, I think 17 or 18, we did our first April Fool's fake product launch, Now it's very common. Now every brand on April Fool's does a fake product launch. But it was, we done it very early in the day. And then a couple of April Fool's, we did nothing. But this year, a day or two before April Fool's, we did a celebrity doppelganger campaign, where we actually, while surfing Instagram and stuff, found doppelgangers of Amitabh Bachchan, Salman Khan and Shah Rukh Khan. So we wrote to those doppelgangers and we said, listen, we're going to send you our product, depending on whatever the fee. Can you take a photo with the product and using the product? So they did. They took the photos, they sent it to us, and then we made these fake hoardings, sample hoardings of, the celebrity saying, with a caption and a comment and a small asterisk saying, this is not Shah Rukh Khan, right? So it says, Bhai ko SleepyOwl pasand hai, with a doppelganger of Salman Khan. So it never said Salman Khan. It never used Salman
his
Khan.
real
It
name.
just said Bhai ko Salman pasand hai, and then there was an asterisk saying Bhai refers to Parvez, who was the actual guy who, same for Amitabh Bachchan. It was Amit ji digs SleepyOwl. And asterisk, there are 1 million people named Amit in India. Just know,
skirting through it.
Skirting through it. So it was just, it was fun. Got a lot of and the thing is, we also acknowledge, so we're not the first people to do it.
I'm a little curious about service. What does service stands for you?
Service stands for, I think today, for us, especially as an e-commerce brand, whether it's people who place an order, paid you money from tracking their order, their delivery, making sure it reaches them on time. you have to do impeccable service. Otherwise, that repeat user will not come. It will not make sense. When let's say someone uses your product and doesn't like it, we have enough people say, listen, I bought your product, it doesn't taste good, I don't like it, refund my money. Sure, done. We just want you to leave this feeling, or we say, take a replacement, can I offer you something else? If nothing else, then take it. Let them know that we're listening to you. We appreciate your feedback, and if you're not happy, we don't want to, we don't want to force you into the ecosystem. Let's make it right so that at least the memory you are left with about the brand is one of they're good people. They solved my thing. Mera jo issue tha solve kar diya, right?
So let's talk numbers. Like, I'm so curious. Like, I want to really unfold all of it. Let's talk about AOVs. Let's talk about scaling in terms of users. Is there some demographic insight there? Let's talk about unit economics.
So I think AOVs, and this would only apply for the website, right? And as I've told you, the website is not the largest part of the business, but for those entrepreneurs in F&B who initially start off with the website, your AOV is directly connected to your customer acquisition cost, right? And customer acquisition cost, unfortunately, is not in your control as much today. It is high, right? It is upwards of 200, 250, 300, 350, 400, depending on the category, depending on your marketing efficiency, depending on your spends, right? So given that's your customer acquisition cost for a first-time consumer, you're looking at minimum AOVs of 900 plus, right? 1,000 plus. And to be honest, the higher the AOV, the better it is for you to make money on that first order, right? Because if you're not making money on that first order where you acquire a customer, then you're highly dependent on making money if they repeat, right? Now, if you're dependent on making money when they repeat, the couple of issues there. One is they may love your product, but start going to another channel to buy it, which means they may not come to the website again and again. We bought it once, they love it, now they're going on Amazon. So you've lost the customer, you've lost 30% margin, almost flat to, because they've gone to buy it anywhere else, right? You have to retain them to your website, right? To see the incremental benefit of when you acquired them. Now, why may they not come back to your website, right? You acquired them, and you've not made money on the first order, let's assume, because you're selling something worth 300-400 rupees, they've come, they've tried it. You're not making money on that because of your logistics cost, your shipping cost, your payment gateway, your COD charges, the jabang, right? You're not making money on the first order, so you're hoping they keep coming back and you start making money. Why may they not come back? A, your product is not good enough, right? In which case, there's nothing much. Or they didn't like your product, let's put it this way. They didn't like your product, they didn't like your offering, so they don't want to come back, right? So you've lost there. So it's not that they've not come back to you, they've not come back to your universe in any way or form. Second is slightly not within your control, which is logistics, right? It took too long to come from your website, or the experience wasn't smooth enough, right? Or it got the delivery got delayed, right? Or it took 3 attempts to deliver it, or it reached, it went back and you had to resend it to them, and somewhere the experience is broken, which is because of a logistics partner or aggregator where it happens, right? So that leads to friction, right? Where that customer may debate. Even if they want to order your product again, they may debate saying, "Ki yaar, my website se nahi karna, are they available anywhere else?" And once that starts, if they have to start searching for you in other places, they don't find you easily, which is the usual case for young startups, because you're not available very widely, they look for alternatives, right? And then you lose a customer. So I think that is where the major issue is. So it's not to say that you need to be first order. Ideally, you should be first order profitable after all costs.
So let's make someone first order profitable, right? So acquisition cost is around 250, 300 on the ad. Right.
Your margins should be 60, 70, 80% upwards, right? Even if you say 60%, right?
Then there is delivery cost.
There's delivery cost, which again depends on the kind of package you're offering. Is it a light item? Is it a heavy item, right?
You guys use glass.
We use glass, we use glass for a lot of our products, right? So just quick update there, like our beverage products, the ready to drink beverages, we don't ship on our website. So that's automatically eliminated, right? I have to sell products that ship, that can be shipped on the website, right? But yes, our instant coffee comes in glass jars. We ship those glass jars. We have to take packaging into account. So there is no breakage, right? Because broken product means double kharcha, right? So we use a certain packaging to make sure that product doesn't break. But what we do is we do it in a way that keeps the product under 500 grams. Because if it's under 500 grams, let's say you're paying an average of, let's say, 40 rupees. The moment it goes to 600 grams with packaging, with everything, for a 100-gram glass jar of coffee, you'll be paying 80 rupees, right? Which doubles your logistics cost, right? The other thing is COD. We charge for COD. Tell the customer, if you want to do COD, you pay 100 rupees, right? Because COD mein aapke return rates high ho jate hain, which you have to absorb. So we charge 100 rupees COD mainly to dissuade the customer from doing COD. So we're sitting at a 90% prepaid orders, 10% COD orders. Therefore, my successful deliveries in prepaid and COD are very, very high. In fact, my returns in COD are obviously higher than my returns in prepaid, but we almost have no returns, right? So that is absorbed into the cost, and I think everyone should. The other thing you can do to increase AOV, right? And my glass jar today is 500 rupees. Let's say an acquisition cost of 250. I'm technically not making money, right? On first order. But what you do is you increase AOV. You do bundling, right? Where you say, okay, buy 2, buy 3, and get better prices for it, right?
Or something that what you have done, which is very interesting, and I was going to bring it up.
Merchandise.
Yeah. I saw it very interesting that, for a coffee company, there is somewhere on your website says that, get a cup or mug, get a mug.
Coffee free.
And get a coffee free. I was like, shouldn't it be get coffee and get the mug free? Correct. But it's very interesting how you've
There's a reason for that, right? The reason for that is because we've said this is 2 mugs, which are 1,200 rupees together. And so customer is already spending. They're seeing an ad, they say, okay, these 2 beautiful mugs, good quality, everything checks out. It's a branded mug, which means they promote the brand every time they drink out of that or remember it, right? For 1,200. So it's way above your AOV. Even if I'm acquiring for 250 with 1,200, the unit economics on that works out. But the free coffee is the hook which actually gets a customer. For us, it's important that they try it. If they try it, they could come back and buy it, right? So that is the reason why we do it that way. But yes, merchandise, which means think of products that you can sell adjacent to your core products. Of course, bundling multiple products that you can sell. The other thing that a lot of brands do is take a delivery fee. Unless your delivery is free if you order above 1,000. Which becomes an incentive to go ahead and add a few more things to cart, right? So on and so forth. Or people also do convert from COD to prepaid now. Right? Like there are tools and channels that offer you a convert from COD to prepaid and say 50 rupees. It comes when you're about to pay. So you choose COD, you go to the last page and it says 50 rupees off if you convert, because it increases your chances of a successful delivery, right? Having said all of that, I think the other big factor that comes in is service time, right? If you are not servicing within a 2 to 3 day framework, your customer will start looking on Amazon or elsewhere for a faster delivery.
3 days.
Yes.
Delivery in like 72 hours. Essentially.
Yeah, 3 to 4 days at the max, depending on where you're located and where the customer is. It becomes important because otherwise, too longer delivery, the customer gets a bit antsy, right? So I think those are the factors that, make it. But yes, it's not easy to be first order profitable. For a long time, we weren't first order profitable, which is why we were very, very focused on how do we do that? B, your product and service has to be so strong that you have to convert those people to come back again and again to you, right? So we would do, and we should still do, but we don't do it as much now. But early days of founders, call every single customer and estimate, okay, they bought your product, it should get over in a week. Call them, get feedback on the product, encourage them to order again, encourage them to, refer it to others if they liked it. That's why D2C exists, it's to learn. Because you have data, Amazon, quick commerce, modern trade, general trade, you have no customer data. You don't know who's buying your product necessarily. You don't know what age, you don't know why, you don't know what time they consume it. So building your own website actually allows you to future-proof your business in terms of what next can you do. How do you improve your current offerings? That is why you have, that is the only customer you truly, truly own. And that becomes very, very important. And it, again, depends from category to category. F&B is not one of those categories where it's easy to get customers to come repeatedly to your website alone to place orders. Unless you have something unique to offer, right? So a lot of our merchandise or a lot of our selection of combos are only available on our website. You cannot get that on other channels necessarily.
Let's talk about unit economics. So when let's zoom into maybe your first product, right? And which is the cold brew.
Correct.
So how does that look like? So there's of course the beans.
So essentially it's RM, PM, which is raw material, packaging material.
So by the way, all of this happens in
Our own factory, we
Okla.
manufacture it. Yes, correct. Used to happen in our house, then now it happens in Okla. So you have raw material, you have packaging material, you have a conversion cost, right? What does it cost you in terms of manpower, electricity, to convert it from,
Absolutely.
take the raw material, the packaging material, and convert it into a finished good, right? You have tax, which is the component into it, right? You have the shipping, carton and all of it. So it's not just the product in its form, it has to also be packed into something to ship it. So that cost needs to get added, tape, so on and so forth, right?
There's wastage, obviously.
Wastage, to some extent it gets added in. So we typically aim to operate at 60% gross margin upwards on most products and products categories, but it is extremely difficult to do that in situations where, see, if your product is highly innovative and very unique, you can.
Yes.
But the moment you're following the same grammage or the same pack size or the same pack format as competition in the market, you are benchmarked very quickly against what the competition is doing, right? And in which case your gross margins in food are between 40 and 60. Anything lower than 40, there's no point doing business, right? Anything above 60, golden. But typically brands fall within the 40 to 60 range. What's important to note here is that there is inflationary pressure, right? So you have to keep a very close track of your raw material and your packaging material input costs, right? And a lot of times, that cost only comes down with scale, right? So evaluate multiple vendors, evaluate different, bring down your costs of your product, because you cannot take your MRP up endlessly, right? We've completely forgotten discount into this. You can take a certain percentage of discount as a fixed, jo aapko dena hai, which is now like the basic cost of doing business. There is no way around. I don't remember the last time I saw a brand selling without a discount, right? I mean, 5%, 10%, 2%, 3%, everywhere it's available, right? In a lot of cases, brands, and I don't necessarily think this is the best thing to do, but there are ways and means. People have inflated MRPs, right? Which is, it's a little tricky. I mean, customers, I don't think are foolish, and you can't necessarily go out there and, when there are brands that are permanently at 80, 70, 80% off, I mean, then you're also viewed as a discount brand, you're viewed as a value brand, right? If you want your positioning to be one that is premium or, people should look up to and appreciate you for your quality, then they should also be able to pay what you're asking for, right? So it's false to tell yourself that this is what we charge when customers never pay.
Nobody pays that, Are you guys profitable?
No. Not yet, but we're on track to be EBITDA break-even. Yes. So that's something we've been working on for a while.
That's interesting. I hope we get it.
Yeah, I hope so too. I think we will. It seems like we're on track. The last couple of months, have been, and I think the way the ecosystem has evolved in the last year or two, it's been this fight to, move towards healthier economics, right? Especially in categories like ours, right? Where there's no reason to not be, to be honest, right? Of course, there are, different things that have happened over the years and the way the business models have changed, where, D2C is a different beast, your marketplaces is a different beast, retail is a different beast, right? And requires different resources and different ways of building. So we're on track to do that now.
Along with all the coffee drinkers out there who try you out, and along with GrowthX, I really wish you the best. And thank you so much for coming here. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and giving us a glimpse of what it takes to build SleepyOwl.
Thank you so much, Adar. I hope that this was helpful to people, and it was a pleasure interacting with you. And I think the GrowthX team have been avid, supporters of SleepyOwl for a while. And in fact, Udayan messaged me a few days ago saying that let's do an exclusive partnership with SleepyOwl for all GrowthX folks.
Yes.
I'm yet to get back to him on that, but thank you all for supporting us.
Awesome. Thank you, and see you guys next time.